welcome to our latest Meet the Management podcast. My name is Marc Ashton, and just some context for these interviews, we look to try and get access to the management teams behind listed businesses on the Cape Town Stock Exchange, the JSE, private equity funds, venture capitalists. And today I'm joined by John Whall from Heartwood Properties, which is listed on the Cape Town Stock Exchange. John, thanks very much for your time.
Yes, John, thanks very much for having me, Mark.
John, maybe just a starting point. We're always fascinated by the management teams that effectively put together these listings. They put together portfolios. So maybe just a little bit about who you are and what you're involved in, your background professionally.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much, Mark. So my background is I'm actually a civil engineer with a CA degree, and I started life as a financial director at Q5 Construction, and from there I got into the property development division of Q5. There was actually an issue in that development and in that division, and they sent me in to have a look at it as an FD, and I came back and said, I really love property. After spending some time there, I got involved in some very exciting developments at Q5, and one of the companies we worked with was Montague, which is also a residential development company, and myself and the Montague owners set up Montague Commercial, and I started doing entrepreneurial commercial developments, and from there what we found is that we syndicated developments when we needed capital, and we found that we needed a different platform, and that's how we got to the Cape Town Stock Exchange. But so my background has been in entrepreneurial developments of warehouses and offices, predominantly in Johannesburg and Cape Town, for about 20 years. On the team as well, our CFO is perfectly mom. She's obviously a CEO, and she has extensive experience in entrepreneurial experience, as well as experience in the business, such as business partners as well, before she joined us. We've got Andrew Utterson on our team, who was the CEO of business of the first sort of shared office business in South Africa, the same as Regis. And he was actually one of our tenants that we did a JV with, and we brought him onto the management team. So that's really who we are as part of the management team.
Okay, excellent. So diverse range of experience and opportunities in there. Maybe just take us through your portfolio. What are the assets in there? What is somebody getting when they look at an investment in Heartwood?
Okay, yeah, great, thanks. So we our big philosophy, and we've done this for a long time in developments, is that we do joint ventures with our tenants. So our tenants are our perfect tenants are successful entrepreneurs. We really found that we work well with successful entrepreneurs, and they're usually guys who want to own their own buildings, but it's not the right time for them. And we find we're doing a lot of warehouse developments at the moment in Cape Town. And we sort of fit into the market of sort of 2,000 to 10,000. So we're not in the big warehouses, but we're not also in the small warehouses, and we find we do a lot of joint ventures with our tenants, and we're quite tenant driven. So we would find a tenant and work with our tenants first, and only then find land. So we're not developers who sit on the land, and we often, so a successful story for us would be developing something with a tenant, and then after 3 to 5 years, actually selling the building back to the tenant and moving on. So that's really our strategy, and we've been doing that for a very long time. We have some warehouses in Cape Town that we developed. A recent one was for Blue Nova, which is a battery supplier. We've done one for LBO Water. So we do have quite a few, and then we've also done some in Lanseria in Johannesburg.
And when you look at the investment thesis and the value proposition that you are bringing to shareholders, what do you think is your competitive advantage, or what is it that you bring to the party that you think makes it unique from a business and investment perspective?
Yeah, so we are listed on the Cape Town Stock Exchange, but the way we run our business, I mean, by doing joint ventures with our tenants, is that we get very long leases, and you get a tenant that's actually very dedicated to the building because they have part ownership. We normally do an 80-20 split with our tenants. So you have a tenant that's quite dedicated, you have long leases, and we have an exit strategy where we sell back to our tenants or we do exit our building. So we find that we make our best return in the first 5 years of developing and owning an asset. So it's quite important to distinguish ourselves from a lease. I mean, we're not guys that hold assets long term and asset manage them. And we find after 5 years that the returns are quite flat for us. And it's much better for us to take that cash, put it into a new development, and then make a return again. Our dividend policy is when we exit assets, we give 20% of the net proceeds back to our shareholders as dividends. We retain the balance for our pipeline projects. I mean, we did list at an asset value of 120 million, and now we're over 320 million. But our target is to have our sort of base portfolio at 600 million, and that's what we're trying to achieve at this stage.
One thing that's really attracting a lot of interest is the Cape Town Stock Exchange in terms of being able to attract new listings. I mean, they've done some interesting things there. I really enjoy the registry tool that they've developed. They seem to be quite an innovative team. What has been your experience in terms of bringing a business to listing? It's a very challenging time to list any business, raise any capital. What has been your experience in terms of dealing with the Cape Town Stock Exchange, and what are the learnings that you've been able to take out of it?
Yeah, so I think I'd just like to take you back to how we got there. And being entrepreneurial developers, we syndicated developments, and we had different SPVs with developments in it with shareholders. So what we used to do is that if we needed capital, we used to put some capital in ourselves, get some debt funding, and then we used to get private investors to invest with us in our developments. And what happened is that we ended up with quite a few different companies with different shareholders, and the banks couldn't see through our balance sheet through that, so it didn't help us on sort of consolidated lending. And we then started looking around on different options, and we actually did look at private equity options, but that was really a case of where you can get equity on a once-off, and we wanted continuous equity. And being a smaller company, we came across at that stage of the Core African Exchange, and we started talking to them, and it was it's very cost effective to list on this exchange. I mean, and the Core African Exchange became the Cape Town Stock Exchange and moved on to Cape Town. And we found that the process was quite simple, and it wasn't expensive at all. I think the costs were between 300,000 and 400,000 for us to list, which is really not expensive. And we were able to, firstly, it gave us better debt funding. I mean, the banks, with the governance involved with listing, that improved our balance sheet. We immediately got better debt funding for our assets. And we have been able to raise capital initially through just a normal capital raise, and we've done a few capital raises since we listed. And the other advantage for us has also been that we have been able to issue shares for land in joint venture deals and bring assets onto our balance sheet by issuing shares, which would definitely not have been possible if we hadn't been a listed company. It gives us higher profile and credibility, definitely. And I mean, the Cape Town Stock Exchange, we were very pioneering. We were the first property company to list. I think we were number 4 on the listing, so we were very pioneering when we did this. Now there are 17 companies listed. The stock exchange also allows debt listing, which I think they've been quite successful in raising debt. And it's a very efficient organization. I mean, they have a cloud-based platform that is real time, and I think that it's much better than that sort of legacy systems around. And it's definitely been beneficial to us, and we've been able to grow our business. It is challenging at the moment in this environment, raising capital, but we have still managed to use our equity to bring in land deals, and that's assisted us a lot. When we listed, we only had 8 shareholders. It was the main founding shareholders. And now we have close to 100 shareholders, and our share does trade on a daily basis, even though it's at this stage it's quite tightly held. So there's been a lot of benefits to us with this Cape Town Stock Exchange, definitely.
So just 2 questions in relation to your last point. The first one, I mean, looking at the management team, what sort of breakdown, or maybe just give us some context around the breakdown of your shareholder base at the moment?
So we as a management team, we own quite a lot of the shares. Our shareholder base is it's mainly successful entrepreneurs or property guys who know us. High net worth individuals, those make up our shareholders. We have attracted quite a few smaller retail type shareholders through the Cape Town Stock Exchange, and it's great to see that. I mean, we'd really like to see much more of that. We don't have any institutional deals at this stage. I mean, it's all high net worth individuals, and I think that's quite a consistent trend on the Cape Town Stock Exchange. And I think what I would like to see there is probably more participation from the broker network. And there are quite a few brokers that are, say, on the JSE that are not on Cape Town yet. And I know it's a piece that they're working with, but I think that would improve it even more. Although it's done really well, and there've been quite a few listings on the exchange, even in this environment. I mean, there's another property company that was listed recently. So now there's 3 property businesses, and I think it's very good for businesses that are that are small, that want to expand, but even sort of family businesses that want to split their shareholding or have grown to more generations, want to give sort of managers some incentive. So I think there's a big gap in the market for us exchange for smaller businesses that's efficient and cost effective as well. So
yeah, I mean, I think the general feedback, and this was going to be the second part of my question, was around introducing more of a secondary market where there's retail investors involved, bringing them in, being able to, it's great to have some equity, but you want to have the opportunity to have some price discovery and the opportunity to trade the shares with either an institutional base, or more likely in this case, kind of high net worth individuals and retail investors. Any kind of guidance around what the exchange is doing well to attract new and attract more attention, more listings? What is it that they're doing well in your opinion?
I mean, I think the move down to Cape Town Stock Exchange was an incredibly good move. So I think it's suddenly just given, because at one stage there were a few smaller exchanges, and the sort of definition between them was quite blurry in a way. The Cape Town Stock Exchange now really does stand out, and it's given it a very strong brand, which is being a very efficient and well-run stock exchange. So I think they've done a very, very good job of marketing, which needs to keep going actually, and so more people need to actually know that this is available to them. I would like to see something like, as an example, I mean, if you take a company like Easy Equities, which has a big base of retail investors, it would be great if they could plug into this type of platform. I mean, they're plugged into sort of Capitec bankers, and I think it would really help to drive momentum with that sort of thing. So that's what I would like to see. I mean, there has been a bit of that, and we've seen, we started with 8 shareholders. We've got a lot of smaller shareholders that trade our shares on a daily basis. So there is a lot of interest in the exchange, and there's some great companies there to invest in. You can do really well. But I would like to see plugging into more more platforms like Easy Equities where they're retail investors, because I think that's the market. The institutional guys, I don't think there are many of them at this stage that are looking seriously at exchange.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really interesting stories. We've chatted to the guys from Gaia, the infrastructure guys, the Altvest guys. There are some really interesting opportunities, and I think this early stage access to capital is such an important discussion. And the transparency that a listed environment does provide, and a well-regulated listed environment does provide, is really important. John, cognizant of time, any kind of closing comments from your side around reasons for people to follow your story?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at Heartwood, I mean, it's been very successful for us since we've listed. I mean, we've grown our asset base substantially, and we want to keep on going. And we are a business that always requires equity to grow. We've got a very substantial development pipeline in our focus market. It's mainly in Cape Town going forward. And yeah, I mean, we've come this far. We've been listed for 6 years now, and we're really looking to sort of kick on and grow the business from here together with the Cape Town Stock Exchange. So yeah, we've got a lot of good things and a lot of good opportunities in our business going forward.
Excellent, John. Thank you very much for your time. We will follow your story and update the market as the story evolves.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Mark.